So welcome everyone to the Up Convergence, Unity and Peace. I'm Noelle Marshall with the co-creators Convergence. And right now we are entering our peace hour. All this week, we have been having from 6 to 7. Laurie Timmerman has been hosting amazing conversations and presentations, and I'm not going to be disappointed tonight, I'm quite sure. So let me tell you a little about Laurie, and then she will introduce her guest, Bonnie Masdorf. So Laurie Timmerman is a global specialist and visionary thinker with over 28 years of experience focusing on global issues of sustainable development, agriculture's food systems, energy environment, climate change, women's empowerment, democratization, and community bill of rights, demilitarization, and is very active in World Beyond War. In the 90s, she was part of the Center for Visionary Leadership. And since, also the Network of Light Communities in Washington, D.C. And then since 2014, she has been on a knowledge quest regarding themes of awakening and disclosure and enjoying related conferences and research.
You bet.
Well, welcome everyone to this Peace Hour. It's now in our, I believe, our 4th session, if not 5th session. And so we really have a very rare treat. I'm very delighted to have my very good friend, Bonnie Masdorf, here with me. And Bonnie has been on an extraordinary journey that has intersected with the nexus of how to heal from war, from trauma, and how to bring in our fullest inner self, our heart-centered self, and to live our lives from that space. So let me just start with an introduction of Bonnie. She is the founder and executive director of the Foundation for Healing Among Nations. This is a spiritually based peace fellowship with a coalition of over 50 international organization members. As a visionary, she brought forth innovations such as We Are One initiative through Vice President Al Gore's office, and she has served as an interviewer for Steven Spielberg's Shoah Foundation, where she initiated the idea to bring oral history resources forward to other cultural groups and nations based in forgiveness and reconciliation. She has served as a diplomatic liaison in meetings with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, and Mrs. Rosa Parks, as well as Dadi Prakashmani, many more. As a humanitarian, she has assisted women around the world grow and prosper. And she is really called and is driven to bring people to move from suffering to awakening through the power of love. Bonnie is a dancer of the life force, and I can attest to this because I have seen her do this performance. She's a lover of nature, and she offers workshops for women and couples in deepening spiritual intimacy. Bonnie has an MSE in esoteric psychology and a PhD in esoteric philosophy and divinity. She is a mother of 2 sons. She's a godmother of 7. She now resides and lives in Harrison, Idaho, with her husband and her dog, Tashi. Did I get that right? Tashi? Yes. Okay. So Bonnie, thanks so much for joining us this evening. And I just wanted to start a journey, and the journey is a little bit of like a story of, a life story, because you have really had quite the unique and remarkable journey to tell. So can you tell a little bit about your childhood, your upbringing, and how did this set you on your course?
Well, thank you, Laurie, and I'm so so honored to be here on the Up Convergence with everybody else and these amazing speakers. It's really a joy to be doing this across the planet. Laurie, first, before I answer that particular question, I have to preface it with the initial core element that I'm going to do that will just take a couple of minutes, and then we'll begin the process. So what I'd like to say to everybody is we're going to just begin at the origin point and recognize the fact that you are loved, that you are loved, and love is the whole fabric and weave of this existence we call life on all realms. I always knew this universal love and that I was here to sound that particular frequency. Now, this is really important. From that awake reality, I created an alignment with my life and drew my destiny towards me from that original alignment of that knowledge of love as the fabric of the universe, and that manifesting and activating everything that I do in my life. Now, I had no intentions or goals. I just knew in the core of my being that I am love and am within the heart of Source. Some of you know that, and some of you do not remember this reality. And what I'm here to say is just how gloriously beautiful you are in your own unique expression. And it's the very existence of your brilliant existence and being that emanates that frequency that shifts the whole energy of the planet. So whether you know it or not, whether or not you go and bring and attract a teacher to you that can reflect this wisdom and be a witness to your beauty and radiance and frequency of your beautiful existence. This is the beginning of how everything gets drawn to you, and the goals and everything else gets filled in through that place. So for me, Laurie, that was the beginning of everything for me. So how I'd like to begin this talk in honoring that reality that is everything in my life, that I have seen everything through, all the suffering that I've experienced within humanity on the planet. So we're just going to take 1 minute to connect together and just breathe in and breathe out into your heart. And then breathe in and allow that heart to soften. And then breathe in and breathe out into your belly. And allow your belly to soften. And then breathe in and let it out through your feet. And allow your feet to soften. And feel the ground beneath you, the sacred, beautiful ground. And feel the magnetism of the earth just naturally rising into your feet and into your whole body, nourishing you. There's nothing for you to do. That's it. That's it. Beautiful. And as this is happening simultaneously, as you're gently being breathed by the universe, feel that downflow of light coming in through your soul star 6 feet above your head and now down through your crown. There's nothing for you to do. It's just happening. And all the way down into your heart, and the earth magnetism and the source magnetism are now blended as one in your whole core of your being. And with this activation and with this alignment with us together, we now begin. Thank you so much. Okay, Laurie, we're on. So from that beginning, that was my beginning. I knew from when I came here as a young child that that's who I was, and that's what I'm here to do, to bring that beautiful reality of love here And I had to experience that by meeting the same level of intensity as the magnitude of love, and meeting it with the same level of intensity, the magnitude of separation and ego and suffering that was existing here. And it is within that magnitude that there was something that really, really happened and coalesced within my being. So that's something that all my work began out of, from knowing both of those fields and dimensions really intimately. And within my own core, within all my human frailties also.
So how is it that you were, through your family lineages, brought in such a close, close experiencing of the suffering from World War II?
Well, I had the unique opportunity and choice to be born into a family where my father and his family were all from Austria. And they lived in Auschwitz, which was actually a town. I never even realized there was an actual town of Auschwitz. It was actually a place of peace within Europe, where great leaders came to actually speak about peace, if you can imagine that. And he was in many, many different concentration camps, and he was asked to speak at the Nuremberg trials, Laurie, and he denied. And this was sort of a herald statement of the teaching that coded my reality. And he said, I choose life, I choose beauty, I choose love. I will not condemn another person. I will not continue this pathway. And so that was something I heard of from when I was very, very young, and something that he lived and celebrated life and beauty and nature and birds and colors and children and living joy. And my mother, on the other hand, was a nurse in the Russian army with Stalin. And she was a brave, amazing, courageous being that they called the angel on the front lines, because when she ran out to help and save the men, they saw angels all the time. And she was a force to reckon with. And that was my mother. And I was conceived in a Nazi's castle. Yes, bizarre as that seems. And I'm laughing now, but it carries quite a karmic burden. And born right off the ship when they were pregnant, in New York, in Manhattan. And as I said, I can remember, ever since I can remember, that I had this mission to bring this new particular quality and frequency of love here to humanity. And that's how it was.
Well, since I met you 4 years ago, I was just remarked at your entrepreneurial spirit, and learned a little bit about your history of how you would start a new enterprise and then close it down and start a new one. And so share with folks a little bit about how you were even a body and soul healer and what that was about.
I went to college. There was nothing particularly interesting for me to do in college. And I came across an acupuncturist that came from Japan before acupuncture was legal. And I started studying with him in San Francisco. And that became my passion, to do the healing arts. And I did every form of the healing arts, and became a so-called healer. I'm not particularly aligned with that word, but that's one way people can resonate to it, with celebrities in Los Angeles for several years.
So what did that lead to? So I understand you embarked on the entrepreneurial startup of 5 different companies. So What was the first one?
Well, I have to say the reason I stopped my healing work, which I had always wanted to continue, that was my main identity, in my life at the time. And I just heard something inside of me and said, stop now. It was like a command, but a very loving, but strong, clear, resonating sound. Stop now. And from that point on, I just kind of learned to really, really listen to it. I had already traveled around the world, backpacked, and lived in India several times and studied, been with gurus and done that whole experience. And I had the same experience while I was doing that. And it said, go home now. Your work is ready to begin. This is not it. And I had to drop all of these dreams that I had, all of these ideas that I had, all of these images. And the same thing with the healing. It was just my identity, and I just let it go. And what started coming to me were different opportunities of how to live in the world, get my feet dirty, learn about money, lose a lot of money, make it again, and pretty much become fearless in how the world works and working with men. And I started the first green organic company and lifestyle furnitures in San Diego and had several stores there. And we had a factory with the city of San Diego that did redevelopment with the Vietnamese refugees that were coming in at the time and prisoners that were being let out of prison, African-American prisoners and Black prisoners. And so I put all my greatest aspirations into work with the employees and fulfilling their fullest potential, and found that was much, much more interesting to me. Our focus was not on making money, but really human development and spiritual growth. So I did that for 9 years, and then I was told to stop again, and I sold the business. And then I had a vision of this thing called We Are One Contact Point. It was a technology that brought together equal access information to all levels of people, to poor and rich and everything else, where that wasn't accessible at the time. And we developed that system, or I should say my ex-husband did. And someone heard about it, and it was brought to Vice President Gard's ears. And within a week, I was flown to Washington to present this whole concept. And I had already become an interviewer for Steven Spielberg, and the whole thing became very intermixed together.
So with Steven Spielberg, he had just produced Schindler's List. So how did you come to interview and document the stories of Holocaust survivors with Steven Spielberg, and then how did that unfold?
Well, since one of the companies, the other startup company that we had started was called Intelligent Endeavors, and it was a video production company to do the videos for the We Are One Contact Point. So I was reading a video production company magazine, and I saw an ad in there that they were looking for interviewers. And I wrote him a letter and told him about my background and that I really, really needed to do this to bring greater, deeper understanding to my own healing experience and my own trauma that was very difficult for me to connect with. It was very difficult for me to get in my body. The trauma was so deep that no matter what other kind of work I did, it was very hard to contact. So I felt that this was an avenue of a way of embracing that personal karma that I came into and the planetary karma. And so they took me on. I was the last interviewer that they brought on to train. And since I was living in Nashville, I became the regional director for the South for them. And while I was there, I started connecting with a lot of the civil rights leaders, as Nashville, Tennessee is the seat of the civil rights movement. And I just got it in me because it was such a beautiful, powerful experience of safety, of awakening, for these individuals and their testimonies. They were freed from they were sort of like paralyzed in their bodies. Part of their soul, their being had just left their body, and they were living in this paralyzed experience of trauma. And after these interviews, they were freed from it. And mainly, I'd have to say it's because of it's really like a shamanic journey that you took them through. You created a field of safety with the questions that were asked, a field of beauty about their home, about everything that enveloped love. And you created this field of such deep love that was palpable in the room. And then you took them into the second phase and you'd say, now we're going to enter what is the first sign of danger you experienced in. And they would pretty much leave their body and go into a trance state for quite a while. And my job was to really stay with them in such a way that they had to stay right there in the center of that eye of that storm, while everything was moving about them. And then they came out of that. And it was all through the questionings and the reconstruction of the historical documentation into, you are here now, and this is your life now, and this is your family here now. And what is that one thing you want to say to the whole world, that from what you have experienced? And they didn't know that their voice was, something worth saying anything for. These are little old ladies and people that never spoke in front of people. And these interviews would go on for 7 hours. And they would pretty much 99.9% said, we wish only love, only forgiveness for all beings and all humanity. And in that moment, you could see they did not know they had the capability. They did not know that fire of love was in them for all humanity. They did not know how powerful their own resources of their own being were. And they experienced it. And it's just this light, this awakening light went off. And it was just freeing millions and millions of souls all over the place in time and space. It was very powerful. So I was like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this for the African American people. Let's do this for the Tibetans exposed to the Chinese insurgents. Let's do this for the Tibetans and the indigenous people and the Vietnamese and for the Armenians. It just kept going on. And so I started bringing over people from the civil rights movement to Los Angeles to start meeting with the Shoah Foundation and Steven Spielberg. And, that's how Healing Among Nations began. They weren't ready to begin that project, but they supported it and they supported my work in it. And I started the Foundation for Healing Among Nations in honor of my father who had just passed away. And the name just came out of nowhere. I didn't even know what it was connected to. It sounded great. And I later found out that it was connected to many fulfillment of prophecies. And that's what began to happen. People started coming forward to us after we did a summit where I invited all the leaders from all of these different groups. And they started asking us to help them in fulfilling their prophecies. And I'd say, why me? And they go, don't you know you're a Healing Among Nations? And I went, oh, okay, tell me more. So that was my journey. I winged it every step of the way, listening to what I didn't know, and I didn't know a lot. But I was guided, and I felt guided by many, many great beings on the other planes, and we worked together. And those beings really brought through the power of love to me in front of other leaders. And it was quite an experience of miracles.
So, so in this flow, and you're listening to guidance, what are some of the events that happened, the activities that took place? Just what transpired during this phase?
Well, I guess the first phase after we did the summit, where we really came together to really unwind the trauma in time and space for all the cultural nations. And it was really an enlivening of the soul of their nation and the destiny of their nation, the true destiny of their nation. So each one had several hours within the sacred space for 3 days. We pretty much didn't leave the room from 7 in the morning till 11 at night, focusing in on this to move through that journey. And from that place, we all were able to bring and elevate everybody to stand on a whole new plateau, looking forward in a greater experience of wholeness. And from that place together, with their own unique expressions of their own cultural identity, they could move forward. We could move forward. Humanity could move forward in those expressions together now for the first time. And I believe that that meeting was going to be about continuing doing the oral history documentation, but everything changed after that initial meeting. And one of the first people that came to us were the Hopi elders, Martin Geschwasame, the Hopi prophecy holder at the time. And he said, we need to fulfill our prophecies now. Could you arrange a meeting with His Holiness the Dalai Lama with us? And then he began to tell us about what his prophecy was and how healing among nations was part of that prophecy, and why I was, in our foundation, not I particularly, was part of that stream. And that continued to happen. Another group of rabbis and priests came up and they said, we want a delegation to go to the Middle East. And the same thing happened when I was in the Middle East. So we started doing negotiations when I was there in the middle of nowhere with the Hamas during the second Intifada and the bombing. And, and then with, Israeli and a lot of Israeli peace groups. And in the middle of that, once again, one of the beings came up and said, you know what this is about? And I said, well, tell me more. And they said, this is about a healing among nations. This is in our prophecy in Isaiah. I can't remember the exact number. So that continued to be the fulfillment of certain prophecies in and out of time. And I say in and out of time because the biggest one happened. And I love this story because I want people to really begin to imagine and understand the magnitude of how many beings are with us here and in and out of body. And the miraculous kinds of things that are still going on in time and space, even though they are not in a body. So St. Francis came to me after a meeting in San Francisco with a variety of religious leaders. And I came back to San Diego and I kept going, what is this? What is this with St. Francis? And I stopped and I listened and I heard this voice and said, go to Assisi to create the day of prayer of peace with the Pope. And I went, okay, this tops it all. I'm like, they don't know me. How am I going to get there? And, and now I'm really thinking I have delusions of grandeur. This is ridiculous. And I kept hearing it and all these other different things kept coming in. I said, okay, how do I do this? The year before, Mrs. Rosa Parks had been given the award by the Pope in Washington, D.C. at the White House. And we had done work with Mrs. Parks, and I was very close with her right-hand person, Elaine Steele. And I heard, call Mrs. Parks and Elaine and ask them to help you. So I called them and I said, this is what I'm hearing. I know it sounds crazy, but I have to get to Assisi and do this thing. I said I would. And they said, oh, okay, yes, no problem. We'll help you. So they called the Archdiocese, they called the Vatican, and lo and behold, within 2 weeks, I was invited. I was in Assisi, and I still didn't know exactly why I was there. I just knew I had to be there. And step by step by step, it all was revealed to me. And this is the part that I wanted to say. we were there, me and a team of women from around the world were there. It wasn't just about me. I had to bring a team of women from around the world. There were 5 other women. And we, as that feminine force, had to stand and bear witness in time and space, because St. Francis, 5 centuries before, had not fulfilled his dream of peace with the Crusaders and the Muslims. And Archbishop of Canterbury was supposed to come to this big event, and he didn't come. At the last minute, he went to Egypt, and he created the Mideast Peace Accords in Egypt. And why? And he is in the lineage of the Crusaders. So St. Francis went to the Crusaders. At that time, it was 5 centuries ago, in the 7th century, and he said, please do not fight. This is not the way of our Lord Jesus. That was for St. Francis. And they didn't listen to him. He then went to Egypt as a stowaway on a boat, and he got in to see the Muslim Sultan at the time. He said, please do not fight. This isn't the way, please, please. And he liked him a lot, but he said, no, I can't do it. So he couldn't fulfill his dream for peace within those lineages. So 5 centuries later, the Archbishop of Canterbury, in the line of the Crusaders, winds up going to Egypt and creating the Mideast Peace Accords. And he fulfills this, and he needs somebody to witness this and see it as done in time and space. And that was simply my role of being there to ground that in this reality here. So it's just, incredible the kinds of things that we can be asked to assist with and fulfill. And my role went on like that, many, many other kinds of things. And then I was heard a voice that said, no, the Healing Among Nations is done. Stop. Thank you very much. You're free from this agreement. Go do whatever you want. And then my life went into a place of disidentifying from my identity and my global work and the global leaders and everything that I had been, to really going into a place of people call the void or 0 point of emptiness, of just emptying out into the original source point of who I am and the source point of the frequency, of love to the best of my ability. And, that's been the last 10 years, and here we are.
Oh, wonderful, Bonnie. I really am just so inspired about the way that you follow divine flow. And so kind of bringing in that lineage from your father's experience from the history project of the Holocaust survivors, then you were called and brought into a new initiative that's happening. I believe it's is it the One Humanity Institute?
Yes, the One Humanity Institute is with a team of people, and Dr. Nina Meyerhoff, she and I did a lot of work together at the United Nations. And she and Domen Kosovar started this project, and they have had the Prime Minister of Poland and many officials and people in the state of Israel support this project to create this One Humanity Institute right next to the camps of Auschwitz. And this is a place for peace training that people all over the world will come into. And it's a place where people that are doing the tours in Auschwitz, that many of them have for the first time, whether they're teenagers or they come to the school, have had this experience of this atrocity and the atrocities that go on in the world. And they leave this tour and they're just in shock and they're traumatized. And they have these questions and they don't know what to do with the experience that they've just been through. So they can then come to this institute and they can begin to have training and to see what they could take back to their communities. They could process their feelings. They could plant flowers in the Peace Garden. There's a whole variety of things. They can go on a journey through the evolution of humanity. They can begin to do vision processes, all kinds of different programs that would be available. There's a restaurant, there's meeting grounds. And this is a place where the ashes of all of these amazing beings that are now on the other side, and they are free from that suffering, and they truly are shedding a portal of light from that power place. All of these places that have had the suffering and the massacres now are becoming places and portals of amazing power in generations of places to really, really activate and, really bring light forward on this planet. So this is one of those places, and we're still waiting for a lot of other things to come together, and especially funding. So everybody listening, you know some people. Boy, this is a very big project, and it's very, very exciting.
So I understand that you are serving as a role of a spiritual director, and you gave us a sense of that insight and that wisdom at the beginning. But just whatever comes to mind that you would like to share of how you are directing spiritually or guiding this this initiative in this role. How are you doing that?
First, I'd like to say that all of this work that I just shared with you, Laurie, and with all the people out there listening at this time, really came because of this deep, deep love for humanity. It was the movement that I couldn't resist, a calling that I couldn't resist. When I was a young girl, I felt I had the whole earth inside my belly, and I was really, really connected as a child to all the other children in the world. And I felt like I was telepathically talking to them all the time, and I was asking how they were. And there was this very empathic kind of communication going on, and deep, deep feeling about all this. And I also want to make clear that each individual here, you are so unique, you are so beautiful. And I want to celebrate that beauty with you, because I can see that in different individuals. And it is not everything in the world that we are here to save. We are invited through our particular energy field and frequency and karmic adaptation to do certain things. So it's my great joy to assist people in articulating and extracting that unique quality of who you are at that deepest level. And do it while you are experiencing joy, and do it while you are experiencing the release of your trauma, and giving you the tools of how to do that. And specifically from my own experience, as I mentioned before, where it was really difficult for me to connect with my trauma that was immense. And the immense body of humanity wasn't even personal. It was personal because I came in here to be this human here. But it was so hard for me to be embodied. It was very easy to move out of my body into vast universal reality, which was what people were doing when I was in the spiritual movements early on. You transcended your body. It was a very masculine, particular discipline. You were disciplined. You transcended your body. You did, ascetic things. You fasted. You did all of these things. And it wasn't natural to my own feminine body. It did not incorporate, outside the devotional aspects, the power of love. And it did not give me axis of embodiment. Later in life, as I became more connected to my divine feminine essence and power and the beauty of that and the frequency of that on this planet and the timeliness of that, I began to experience how to bring that into my body as I connected to the body of the earth, which should have been natural to me, but it was very difficult to do. So now one of the things that I love to do, and I feel is crucial to do any spiritual work on this planet right now, is to learn how to bring yourself into full embodiment, into your body, where your core is connected to the earth, where you are connected into every fiber of your body. You know every detail, like the wave and the particle are connected. You know every detail from the inside out. And you can connect to every vast reality simultaneously, but they are not disconnected. So that is what I teach you to do. And we do that through joy, and we do that through love, and we do that through tenderness, and we do that through experiencing every single detail and celebrating who you are as a beautiful being here of existence, your radiant existence. So I invite you into that space.
Bonnie, I understand you do some coaching and working with people at this level. So can you just share with our listeners here what that looks like and what that entails?
Absolutely. And one of the things the foundation is still active in doing is we're an umbrella organization for many other organizations that do not have a NGO status and that want to do some projects. So they can facilitate that through our NGO status. And so right now we have several projects. We have one in Nigeria working with women. There's educational schools. And we always weave in the training of these spiritual principles as well, and bringing that out, articulating that within their work. And it's very simple. I mean, it really comes down to condensing of how to embody and experience love and the frequency of love, and how when you speak, your energy and vibrations are the first breath that comes through the words. So your whole body is the word that you speak. And if people have a leaning towards universal leadership, which is doing work in the world, we have connections for you. We have organizations that we have worked with. We can begin to help you identify your greatest global service. And we do that in a way that gives you the strength and the inner grounding to stand in the center of anything, knowing who you are.
That's beautiful. Well, with all of that richness and all of that light emanation and heart-centered, I'm thinking some people may want to have comments and questions. Okay, welcome, Jean. Do you have any reflections and anything to share with us, about what we've just heard and experienced?
I appreciated the conversation. It is very calming. And I'm kind of struggling right now whether to continue with the film festival, and I lost my web designer. So all of this is good grist for the mill. Interesting synchronicity. I just spontaneously came on to this conversation via World Beyond War. And I saw on video myself. So you
There you are. Jean.
It's amazing, your story. You must have been you must have been born around 1945 or something.
I was born in 1951.
Okay, because when you said you had been born in one of the Nazi castle and then you came over because you looked so young.
I was conceived in the Nazis' castle.
Thank you.
And then I was born off a ship in New York. Da-da-da-da. Yeah.
In the flow of the Peace Hour talks, we did start out with a PowerPoint presentation of the World Beyond War, a global security system report. So we're really trying to bring in, all the different angles, and including, let's see, we did a little review of World War I, and the second time talking about if we shifted the budgetary funds from the DoD into positive human development. Our international development assistance is with Starved for Funds is doing amazing work in meeting human needs, water, food, agriculture, livelihoods. And so then last night we shared with Eleanor McCain, who came in from the policy perspective of what are breakthrough solutions and policies in health, the economy, climate change. But really at the core, there's something called values in development, or ethics in development, or spiritual values. So I think I'm so happy to have Bonnie here, really articulating this shift that we're experiencing on the planet. This shift, some people call it awakening. We can call it raising consciousness. But what is that? It's a shift to the love frequency that Bonnie is articulating so well.
Yeah.
I might just add, because I'm just like completely obsessed with, somehow or another, you've had contact with some very important media folks. Is in 1985, when they had We Are the World, it went out to 40% of the planet with the music of love for famine relief. And that's kind of my passion right now, is to have something like that, but I don't have any contacts. And I just wanted to throw that into the universe. And last week they had a film premiere about the Beatles in the ashram in 1968. And I think Yoko was on the chat, and it was a beautiful film of a very special moment at that point in time. I was in India in 1971, so I can relate to your backpacking and
I was there then too. Yeah.
An amazing time, and I'm just so grateful. That's when I went to Nepal and first met the Tibetans, and I never really had any experience with them. And so in any case, I just feel like I hope a miracle happens, because our planet is in so much danger right now with nuclear weapons. And I just wanted to throw that out into the universe. And it's a pleasure getting to talk with you and everyone on this call. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Bonnie. I don't know if you can hear me. This is Noelle.
Hi, Noelle. Nice
Hi
to
there.
meet you. Hi.
Nice to meet you. I've been so impressed. I think your frequency is so high that my computer decided to take a nap. So I got on my phone, but I've been listening to everything, and it's just been fascinating.
At a series of 5 retreats with a spiritual teacher, Bill Bellman, who we consider very highly evolved, very high frequency, who articulated a lot about oneness, about living integrity with your own inner, the inner game, the inner self. One of his books is called Oneness. One is called Soul Vision. So this is kind of the space where we met each other in 2016. Bonnie, you want to say anything about that experience with Bill?
Oh, just that he was a really beautiful, unique being that was.
You can turn it down.
Someone that was the few beings that were very pure. and really came here to bring a very specific teaching and quality of light to a beautiful group of people. I'm very grateful for him in my life. Yeah.
Okay, so well, so it's coming up to 5 minutes before we close. So this is your time for any last words of wisdom, anything more on each person here radiating their own unique frequency, any words of wisdom?
With all you wise people out there, I'd love to hear your words of wisdom a little bit, but yeah, I can't emphasize enough this aspect of embodying this quality of love and being the frequency, your very unique frequency of who you are. It's like you're a satellite being planted here, coded for a special time to literally radiate out like a radio tower, this particular frequency. And it's drawing in other frequencies that are likewise meeting that particular quality. And it's a co-creative act that's developing and creating other frequencies that is actually the changing force of these converging energies that's going on right now, that's so fragmented. And this isn't outpicturing. This isn't outpicturing all the stuff that's going on. This is not exactly what is real. What is real is who you are as this awake being, a unique being of love. So imagine, what would it be like if you embraced and allowed and received right now that you are this radiant, sourced being of love? What would your life be like? It would be many, many things. You would begin to experience more unconditional love. You would begin to experience and draw to yourself more of that quality of love. You will begin to experience a greater health and quality of joy. You'll begin to just release the trauma that exists in your body and the trauma that exists within the planet. Everything, this is a cliche, begins with us, begins with you. And this is critical as a peacemaker, as a planetary server, is any part of humanity, for us to wake up to that and just choose that. And just really, really choose that. And there are particular tools and strategies of how to do that when there are traumas and triggers and things coming up. So my heart is with you, and I am here in any way, shape, or form. So just reach out to me, contact me. We offer greater workshops, not right now on Zoom, but if enough people are interested, we will do that. I prefer to work in person. Since we can't, I am available at that level or personally as well. So anyway, I love you so much, and thank you so much for joining in.
So Bonnie, how can people contact you? Can you share your email?
Sure, it's a healingamongnations@gmail.com.
Okay.
All right. And
Thank you.
Our website is healingamongnations.org. If you want to go on, and you can read about the Mideast Peace Accords, and you can read about all the stuff that went on there and read all those details.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Well, this has been such a total delight for me, Bonnie. One of the highlights of my experience was coming to see you in your beautiful home on Lake Coeur d'Alene in 2017. And I'm so delighted that we had this hour with you. So thank you.
And thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Laurie, for bringing such a treasure to our community that we will get to share. And it's really, you know, I really have had a lot of tech things going on. It's like the tech monster moved into my house. But even at the end of the day here, you're calming, poised, beautiful vibration. I'm kind of like Bob says, okay, we'll get on something else. So I'm on my phone now because I have to hear Bonnie and Laurie. So thank you so much. And I'm going to be looking up your organization. And let me see, there's one person put something in the chat, I believe from Jean. Thank you for this. Can you put your email in the chat, please, Bonnie? She says.
Yeah.
So, or maybe Laurie could do that for
Are
you.
you going to do that, or you want me to do it? I can do it.
I'll do it.
And Laurie, I just want to say something else is that the hour before you is Heart Hour. And we had a very beautiful being on there, Sherry Doyen, and she's all about trauma release and going into the heart. And she was talking about how, you know, through her history of, you know, going through tremendous abuse, how she never lived in her body. And
Yeah.
so you come in and say, you know, get into your body and, you know, talk about trauma and how, you know, you help so many people process that. And so I just found it fascinating, you know, just back to back, just like,
Yeah.
you know, we all come in at different angles and we need them all, you know? So,
Yeah. Well, this is the crux of the issue with humanity and our planet. It is based, everything goes back to trauma. Everything is out pictured from trauma, whether it's the trauma of the initial separation from our point of origin, whether it's the concept, the belief system that we're not good enough and we came from original sin, whatever it is, that belief system, that stuff is over, it's done with, it's no longer relevant. It must have served a purpose for some people or how it was set up that way, but it's no longer relevant.
right. As Matthew Fox always says, we came in with the original blessing. And I think that's a beautiful thought. And I really didn't like coming in with the original sin, the original blessing. Yeah, let's get the planet on that tune.
Well, there's no way to refute the true, irrefutable fact that we are love. The whole universe is love. It's just fact. You know, there's nothing you can say about it, period.
Right.
On that note.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Bonnie, Laurie, a tremendous, tremendous sharing. Thank you so much. And good night.
Thanks to everyone and love to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laurie. Good night.